have any control. We don't have view of the risk of the performance of our company. And it's a string of failures, as we said, as you already talked before. And uh, how can I say? It could be offshore developers, it could be cloud providers, it could be subcontractors, it could be freelancers, it could be components. You never know about that. Components could be GenAI, could be open source. You never know. Because that you always must to map how we map it in the assessments, reading the terms, reading the policies, reading the documentations, the SOC, in the homologation process, in procedures, and this alignment that you make before the go live of the vendor, because the vendors, the technical solution is not plug and play. You really need to make assessment, the risk assessment. You really need to raise all the risks and understand what needs to be prevented, mitigated, and all the security controls, the privacy controls must be implemented before the go live. And legal, also the legal controls and the contracts, what it needs to be writing, etc., etc. And sometimes the end party need to all those controls, legal, security, privacy, and etc., etc. You understand? I'm here. It's when we talk about the contracts. We have sometimes some contracts that we have some vague clause. We don't have exit clause, including exit clause. It's very specific for technical solutions. We don't have data portability. We have weak SLAs or specific SLAs, undocumented integrations. We have increased vendor lock-in. We have a lot of weak uh, situations in the contract that will make our vendor just this contract just will be good for the vendor, not for us. And if have any kind of situation, the vendor could not respond for us. If this vendor stop to respond for us, we don't have any kind of how can I say force? We don't have how to defend ourselves because this kind of contract never ever have any kind of good impact for us. The only thing that you have to do in this contract is pay. It's only thing that it's right in there. It's, we have only obligations in this contract, and we have to align one thing, one align to integrations of stakeholders that we raise in the assessments. We have to address a lot of security aspects, privacy aspects, uh, international data transfers. We have to align um, uh, artificial intelligence matters. We have to address a lot of things that it's very behind just legal terms. You see? And contract, it's very relevant in this aspect because that in this process is integrated. And you have to fix annual exit testing, data reversibility, transition penalties, how the how we as clients must receive the data that we have there in the open data and not in the data that you cannot read before. We have a lot of topics that clauses that must be included in this contract when we are talking, including in a technical solution, when this vendor is a technical solution. You see? When you talk about the autonomous AI driving attacks via suppliers, we have um, relevant topics to explore because these attackers are now using autonomous AI to break into suppliers, not to main company, but very clear examples of pattern, of attack pattern with AI generated deep fake credentials, um, automatic API to exploitation and continuous vulnerability scan. So they are very, how can I say, each time they are very, very uh, exploring the very high technology to use AI. And our weakness is supply becomes the AI attack as entry point in your company. And the mitigation that you should say, oh, sorry, is that we see that the minimum security baseline that they have, but we need to raise this bar. And we should also uh, have the resilient tests and exercise very a tabletop exercise related to this AI and understand how it is performing. Okay, and I have a very continuous ML based monitoring and understand how it is performing. So AI is very new technology, and many companies don't know how to work with it, and don't know how to protect about that. And if you have a new technology onboarded in your company without all those assessments and all those integrations, and don't understand the risks that they are facing in the future, how a company could protect themselves? So, because that, uh, no matter if you have a very high, very large type of technology without protection, with all risks integrated. You first is first you must mitigate all risks and also make them board of it. Is the trend. From here, we talk about the cloud, region failures, and sovereignty pressures, because uh, one thing is the failing more often due the AI also we have AI workload saturation and geopolitical restriction. We have this point to analyze, and the rising regions of age and zones increasing operational constraints and the problems. The regions overloaded, latency spikes, loss of redundance, and vendors effective streams. And well, it's not redundance if all regions fail in the same way. But how can I say? Multi-region, cross-cloud, hybrid is over. But if we a view of mitigation. In the other hand, we can align it when you have a cloud. In the time before, we have a lot of topics to address, also to address in the contract. As you see, all the trends are aligned. Never ever when you talk about the vendors, you deal with individually. It always will deal with it integrated because the process always will be multidisciplinary. We always back to basic. We always will back to trend one. The process will be always integrated. We not never ever will work alone. And here, when you talk the SaaS, we have a similar scenario. When the vendor keep launching new models that break existing integrations, remove features, or force upgrades, and uh, their operation may break not because of an attack, but because you're a SaaS provider. Uh, Here we see also uh, contractual change control, documented modular scope, even the regression testing. So modular scope definition. And here, how we can identify in the assessments, in the privacy and the security assessments, we identify all those points. And we mitigate it in the contracts. All those points, we address it in the contract. You see? Here it's very interesting point because it's a resolution that most of authorities, data authorities, in the most of countries have this resolution published that we have guidelines to follow with a lot of requirements that all data, all international data that you have transferred must be mapped, and you have to map the data and register, and you must to have a clear view for where is transferred, including if you are talking about the servers, data centers, especially if you are talking about it, and including if the servers have a redundancy. If we have an example, AWS that is based in United States, but have UA redundancy. We must to map it, or if you have UA that is in Netherlands and also French, we must map it because each country has a law. Oh, but Netherlands and French is under GDPR. Okay, but Netherlands and French have a different DPA. And each TPA have your own requirements, and you must to map it and understand how many subjects are under those um, handling of data. And it's what this cross-border data transfer means, and you must to understand the risk and it have an impact of risk for those um, subjects. And what kind of subjects we're talking about? We can talk about vulnerables, children, um, what else? And it must be mapped and registered. And we have a specific assessment for that, that is transfer impact assessment. And if you not don't do it, it could be fined for that. Within authority make some all we be audited for an authority. So it's under the any data regulation for all countries that have any data regulation, and it's a very very critical point. GDPR is the most known, but you have other data law, local data law, and you need to understand all the sub-processors and parties as we already talked about. Uh, Here, the vendor pilot reducing support, vendor support reduction. Um, Due to the financial pressure, vendors are cutting staff quietly. Sometimes you don't know what is happening inside. We suffer some impacts. We have some slow patches. Uh, we have higher mean time to recover, weaker resilience. We could have a weak monitoring. Uh, Maybe you think your vendor has enough people to deal with us, but maybe they don't. And we could have mitigated it with operational capacity, KPIs, minimum staff. We can define SLAs. All SLAs is defined in contract and semi-annual capability audits in vendor also is defined in contract. So we have how to address it. And this point is defined in contract. So we have a lot of situations that could be previously defined, and it's a preventive situation. Here we have the AI governance gaps in supplier. Uh, your vendor are deploying AI from zero governance. It could happen, including if I talk about startups, because it can wait anything from a startup. Okay, so uh, what kind of gap we can expect for them? No explainability, no audit trails, no dataset governance, no human oversight, uh, human review. Human review, it's enforced by law, okay? A no training source, uh, data license and bias not controlled, and you trust models whose origin you don't know, okay? And the mitigation, you need to require, once you are assessing this solution, this vendor, a complete AI model inventory, a MBOO, a race, all those controls implemented, data set audits, you require all the certifications that they have. You require the policy, the terms of use, the security policy. You require the SOC 1. You could require a lot of documentation that will uh, be bring all the transparency of this technical solution, the training of data, the retention of data, and etc., etc. So you can understand it, okay? And when I talk about ISO 42001 controls, it establish the security controls that should be implemented and the requirements for AI technical solution, all the governance that they should have, they must have, and you understand if this vendor follow it. If it's not follow, it's not correct. You see? Next, stop. We are talking about the converging global risks. Uh, what we can talk about that? We have financial, geopolitical, climate, cyber, supply chain risks. We have combined failures that you could imagine that come from all areas, all situations, external, internal, and we can mitigate it with a lot of situations, lot of procedures. We can use the third-party risk management process, a cyber analysis. We could make a lot of analysis. We can use scenario modeling. We can use stress testing. Uh, but I back to base, and I always back use the simple. All the procedure, all the process are integrated. You never ever can work alone. There is a only process that you do everything alone by yourself. We have a multidisciplinary scenarios that we need a multidisciplinary analysis. When you talk about vendor, important when you talk about vendor, and we always will be one step off those workflows, and you must to understand who else will work with this workflow. We must work integrated, must work together to be strong, and only have a onboarding of this vendor once everyone approve it. Because if we don't do it, don't force our internal policy and make the compliance work in your company, we are onboarding our risk, and you always have internal risk, and this risk someday, somehow, explode, and you have an incident. Is the situation, is the final message that I bring for you. And no matter if it's a security incident, it's a privacy incident, it's the legal incident, in the end, we always will have a problem. It's better we face a challenge, the onboarding, and put to get inside the company a sign off and a kick off with excellence, then we face after a problem and fix it crying because it costs most. So I finished here my presentation with the strengths. I try to don't speak a lot, don't be so technical. It just highlight it, and after we will have all of those trends published on my LinkedIn with details, with a practical day-to-day ways to implement, to handling, mitigate, preventing, mitigate it. Okay. And here is a little about me. After you could read more also in my LinkedIn. And I believe that you have now time to questions and answers. I will give you all the time. Wow, I finished before my time. You have a lot of time. We have a lot of time to talk.
Thank you so much, Livia, for that insightful session. Now, the floor has officially opened for question and answers. So, if you would like to go ahead and connect with Livia directly, this could be your chance. And also, I am once again sharing Livia's LinkedIn in the chat box. So in case you would like to connect with her in future and follow her on LinkedIn, please feel free to do that. And let's wait on some questions. I'm also gonna be checking the questions from the live.
Yes, I'm also trying to read here the questions.
Okay, so we have one question here that asks, how can organizations monitor supplier performance effectively?
Mhm.
No, that was from the live which I took. And yes, of course, we can take this question as well. I do manage TPRM through UpGuard questionnaire for ICT risk management for a EU client. Any advices? My client is FCA client.
Just, just let me see if anything. I do manage it for, just let me, just give me a sec, please. Just let me close my PPT. I'm with two screens. Just let me stop one of them because it's not help me so much here. Oh God. Sorry. I come back here. I do manage to be into upgrade questionnaire for ICT risk management for EA clients. For FC client, FC government client, financial product authority. Uh, mm, mm. I'm not sure it's a area that has a very raised bar for everything because uh, what the first is first is integrate our stakeholders as always, okay? And the second thing that I always recommend that it's you should integrate that you should be pair of your DPO because all analysis must to be made in pair. What the law said, Article 32, GDPR Article 32. All the companies must to implement the safeguards in the company. And who works with security, implement the safeguards, technical and organizational. And we must to map and understand all the kind of personal data that will be handled in this vendor, this technical solution. And you should always work together to have this clear view, the full view of what is performed. And also you should work integrated with the legal team and you work with the review of the contract, not the full contract because you're not legal, but the security clause and understand with transparency what's happening. And think, in the other hand, uh, I believe, I suppose, I assume that you don't need to be specialized, but I assume that in base, professionally, basically, the finance regulations because it's very relevant for you. And GDPR, it's other regulation that you should to understand. You don't must be specialized, but you should understand because it's very, very relevant for who works with a 35 because we only assess 35 once they handle personal data. You see? So it's what I recommend for you. And other thing, the 35 must be assessed annually at least. And you should assess it annually if you don't have this life cycle. And the second thing, if you have any kind of risk that somehow changes, so you must to understand how the will be the period of the assessment because they should change. And if you don't have, you must to implement the risk acceptance procedure that also is part of the PRM process. And the ICT risk classification that you talk here, how to be ready for DORA, questionnaire must require incident classification, if you have it, okay, RTO and RPO definitions. It's time to recover, time point, recover time and point time to recover